Welcome back to a new episode of Conflict and Cuisine.
Hello.
We are your hosts, Seth Frantzman and Erica Schachne.
Right, Erica Schachne.
I'm a senior analyst at the Jerusalem Post, and Erica edits the award-winning magazine and also the fascinating, I think it's a supplement.
Yes, in Jerusalem, local supplement.
Right.
And when you say award-winning, you mean the award that you gave it.
It was awarded. We actually had an award. We actually give an award once a year as part of our program.
Yes.
And we gave the magazine an award.
We did.
It's sort of like that time that I think the Nobel Committee decided to give the UN or something an award, where basically it's kind of giving itself an award.
I gave myself an award, basically.
Yes.
So it's self-gifted, but that doesn't take away from the prestige of it, does it?
I gave myself an honorary diploma from my own university as well.
Excellent. Will you be taking enrollees?
Well, I will. Yeah, it will just be me, myself, and I.
Excellent.
So we're in Jerusalem, and it's a holy city, but it's also a city of construction, and there is a city of It's a light rail. I don't know why they call it a light rail, because the trains are not exactly that much lighter, but whatever.
Runs on electricity.
I was on the train today,
Yes.
coming to do this very show.
Yes.
The train.
Wait, the train?
The light rail.
Light rail.
The light rail goes from somewhere in part of Jerusalem to some other place, like most trains. It's on a track.
Yes.
Well, now they decided to cut it into pieces so that because they're building some other track or whatever. So one part of the train that used to go from A to Z now goes from A to G, and then it stops, and then there's another portion at M, and there's a whole part that there's nothing that doesn't go.
Right. Inconveniently, it's the part that people use constantly, which is the center of town, the Shuk, where we work, of course, and the central bus station.
Exactly.
So suddenly people are just on their feet, and there's nothing wrong with exercising, but it's a little bit crazy. And
and also, if you don't know what's going on, so I got to one station. Most of the people got off, but I was looking at my phone, and then the train kept moving, and I was like, okay, we're gonna get to where I want to go. And then it stopped in some non-place, and it was just me and this other person who was confused. And they're like, oh yeah, no, it doesn't keep going from here. We're now going to go back to the station.
Oh my God, did they at least let you off?
Yeah, they let us off back after I'd spent 5 minutes going forward and back.
Right. It's really convenient because they just raised the bus fare, the transportation fare to 8 shekels, which is really high. But yet suddenly, for 14 weeks or something similar, we're not going to have light rail service. So how does that work exactly?
They're going to bring in rickshaws, I think.
I actually think that's the answer for Shabbat meals. When you can't walk too far, you get a rickshaw.
Hold on a minute. Do you think on Shabbat people are allowed to hire a rickshaw driver? Doesn't that cost money?
You could make an arrangement before Shabbos. I'm just thinking, I always think if there's an elderly couple and you want them to travel a great distance to come to your meal, it would be nice to have a rickshaw.
But the person running on the rickshaw is doing work on Shabbat.
I guess, but I don't know what the halachot are. I just thought maybe.
You're saying it's similar to the guy who comes and might turn on the lights on and off, that you could hire the Shabbos person that comes and takes you around on a rickshaw.
Or an Amish guy to bring you on his horse and carriage.
Right. I mean, there are probably Jews in some parts, in I guess the ones in Asia, that they would have had rickshaws on Shabbat.
So maybe there'll be a proliferation of rickshaws outside our work building, and we look forward to it.
Yeah, for a few months at least. I think, speaking of rickshaws, I mean, one place that there was a lot of things going on and it was as unclear and bizarre as rickshaws was the Eurovision.
I personally don't find rickshaws bizarre, but I find Eurovision eternally bizarre. I don't understand it. I grew up in America. We didn't watch it. And how do they judge? What do they wear? Who are they?
Eurovision is a song contest that includes a bunch of, I guess, European countries plus Israel and Armenia and Azerbaijan, which are in our neighborhood.
Right.
And then they compete, and there's a round of voting, and then there's the countries that get through, and there's one more round of voting, and then you win or you don't or whatever.
But it's a popular vote and a judge vote.
That's right. And it's a bit bizarre because it's kind of I don't know what the word is, but it's like the judges hold a lot of the cards. So even though the popular vote might all vote for one, like Israel, for instance, I think won the popular
Took
vote.
one. Yeah, took
But
number
the judges are like, nah, that's fine. Well, we chose someone else, right?
Exactly. And but I do want to congratulate Israel and Yuval Raphael on the number 2 slot,
Right.
given all the pressure of appearing. It was in Basel, I believe, this year, Basel, Switzerland,
Right.
like to kind of a hostile crowd, elements of a hostile crowd. She really pulled it off and, made us proud.
That's the second year in a row that Israel has done quite well.
Yes.
It's also the second year that it was a female performer performing a song that's related to October 7th.
Right. And Yuval was a Nova survivor.
Right, she was there.
So that was very poignant.
Yes, so no, she was very brave, and then we got through that, and that's good.
Yeah, I mean, the part that I think you were referring to about being bizarre is the very flamboyant nature of Eurovision, though. Like just the costumes and...
Yeah, there always does seem to be some that, I mean, to be fair, the Israeli entrants seem to be kind of normal singers, but there always do seem to be a few bands that are just totally wacky, and you're like, okay... I mean, it's not even got great music and it's totally wacky. What is this?
They just threw things together, but regardless, we took 2. So, yeah. So what else is happening?
Well, there's the issue, I think, that on May 18th, there was the first 5, or 19th, I think, the first 5 aid trucks to enter Gaza in about 2.5 months since Israel cut the aid off on March 1st.
With a ceasefire, right, yeah.
We're in, and we're allowed into Gaza. Now, that's after Israel was like, no aid, and then the Trump administration and said, I think you guys should let aid back in.
Right. And,
so that's where we are.
Right, and the UN came out, or the aid organization came out and said, if you don't give aid within 48 hours, 14,000 Gazan babies will die, which later was, debunked to be a dubious figure that might be for a year. So the 48-hour crisis passed. Israel allows 100 trucks to go in. So all the brouhaha is ridiculous. I mean...
Well, it is interesting that the aid was cut off, and yet somehow, it's 2 million people in Gaza. It's a small area. A lot of it's destroyed. But I guess there was so much aid had gone in during the ceasefire that there were like warehouses that were stocked, and
it's like Egypt with Joseph, that they had
7 good years.
Yeah, they had the good years, and now
lean years.
The lean years. So the aid trucks are coming, and
the plan now is that the IDF has cleared out a whole area of Gaza, and they're going to build these distribution points.
Right.
And then that area will have U.S. or private contractors.
Right.
Those guys, that look like these tier 1 American operators with beards and huge muscles and cool tactical vests and stuff like that.
Yeah, like Blackwater. Yeah.
Right. Those guys will come in, they'll run it, or they'll be like around the aid guys. And then
right.
So within the contractor people, there will be then aid people that give out sacks of flour or something. And that apparently
right, a medicine, concept. Yeah. Well, it makes sense. I mean, as long as Hamas doesn't take it all, I mean.
Right. I mean, the theory is, I guess, that the guys or the families, whatever, that get the aid, that they'll have to go through an IDF checkpoint and a American security checkpoint or something.
Right.
And then, they'll cross-reference that against a database from, something like that movie, The Minority Report or something, to see,
that makes sense.
To see if they are a terrorist or will become a terrorist one day or something like that.
Okay, that sounds exactly the way it should be.
Yeah, it's probably going to act. I'm sure this will go. My prediction is it will go completely seamlessly. This will work amazingly well.
Everything in Gaza, there will be no issues. The media will have nothing to say about it.
This is going to go perfectly.
I can't wait.
There can't possibly be anything that could go wrong with this, because, having the IDF control something and then having people pass through one checkpoint and then they go to another one, and then there's like security contractors and there's like another organization that runs something. This massive complexity could only possibly turn out well.
In one of the most sensitive areas ever.
Right.
In the eyes of the whole
guys
world.
Hanging out on the sidelines with mortars and AK-47s,
We seem poised for success.
Yeah, I'm sure this is going to work. I think that there's no chance. I think, the war will probably be over by the next time we have a conversation, and this will work. And like, it's just.
Put down your pen. There's nothing to report.
I intend to burn my computer. Like in that
How
film.
old is your computer?
Like in like Office Space.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to take out the computer and just
into a field.
And just smash it and say, I'm done with this.
Yeah, that was such an iconic scene with the fax machine. I mean, we've all had that feeling.
Exactly.
So I support you in that. Please invite me along when you do that.
We will destroy that, and we will have a video. We'll post it with it. We'll bring it on the show, and we will post it.
And we'll be like, sponsored by Dell.
We have the other thing. The Gaza's a mess. We don't know what's going to happen there. But there is the other thing, which is that Trump came to the Middle East.
He sure did.
He went to Saudi Arabia,
right,
Qatar, and the UAE.
Yes, he did.
He did not go to the other Gulf countries. I think there's a few of them like Bahrain and Kuwait and whatever. Anyway,
he did not go to Israel. He didn't
come here, but he did get a little gift.
That little gift, it was just like a cheap gift. It was almost like a donation, no gifts, just a donation, a Qatari plane. That is hopefully going to be kitted out, when I say hopefully, according to him,
right,
to be Air Force One.
So can someone explain this to me? Like, I know it does. I know I'm like, I don't know. America's a big country. I think
sure
20 million people.
Yeah.
Big. Qatar is a country that's not as big, obviously.
But extremely wealthy.
It's wealthy, but I mean, America still has also the highest GDP in the world, or something like that. Probably. I mean, America has, back. I think, to be honest, America must have been much wealthier than Qatar, like in the 1880s with John D. Rockefeller or whatever. I mean, America has a long history of being one of the most powerful economies in the world, and this plane is I think it's a 747. It's a big plane. It was built by Boeing.
It's so strange.
It was then bought or used by someone in Qatar. It's now being re-gifted to the U.S.
It's
president.
a re-gift.
Well, no, I don't know, but I mean, just saying. No, I
support re-gifting.
I'm just saying, some American naval ships that were built in like the 60s may have been sold on to like the Argentinian Navy or something, which is fine.
Right.
But then for the Argentinian Navy to like give us back our own ship and then for it to become like the flagship of the U.S. Navy, I think would be a bit strange.
A bit strange, a bit symbolic, and God knows what kind of surveillance they've put in there. I mean, how could you possibly sweep it to be Air Force One? I mean, this has got to be a decoy,
so
right?
What's the story? What is going to happen to actual Air Force One? Is it going to be retired and put out to pasture and like in a nice retirement community in Arizona or something?
An assisted living, golden age with bingo.
With other older planes.
Right, with other older planes together, enjoying and making new friends. I don't know. Maybe it'll just be used in a lower level capacity. But I think it takes many years to kit it out. As I said, I like that expression, in the way that an Air Force One would need to be. So it's not going to be operational right away.
Well, I don't get it. Why didn't they just order another plane from Boeing?
I don't know.
Because they don't make the 747 anymore, I think.
Because they had to have it in Qatar so they could insert all the bugs and all the listening devices and all of that.
It's the whole thing.
Strange.
Well, no, I understand planes take a long time to build. Big planes take longer. And some of these big giant planes like the A380s, the Airbuses, and the 747s are not being built anymore. So even if you wanted an A380, you'd have to get it from because
you'd have to custom order it.
The Gulf countries bought up a lot of these big planes. Like the UAE uses lots of A380s. I guess Qatar has a bunch of 747s floating around somewhere.
Right.
So these countries have money, so they bought them.
Right.
I mean, I think the Iranians still use 747s. It's an old airframe from like the 60s or 70s or something.
Right.
So I get it that because they don't build these big planes and the U.S. president wants a big plane, but still the whole thing I just felt the whole thing is kind of interesting. Although I'm not into the conspiracy theories. I think the plane is just being gifted and it's a gesture, whatever. It'll take a while to kit it out. We'll see.
But I mean, Netanyahu got in trouble for cigars, champagne, and his wife got in trouble for pistachio ice cream. So how can Trump accept? I mean, is it within? I guess it's within the rules. You accept this gift of it's for the administration. It's not for himself. So he's going to leave it behind.
He's going to re-gift it. To AOC. I think AOC is going to get it after.
So he's not going to take it to the Trump line, the Trump shuttle.
Either JD Vance or AOC will probably have it.
Okay, fine. There's a lot of regifting to be thought about. Interesting.
Speaking of something that won't be regifted in exactly the same way, which is going to cost $200 or $500 billion, is the Golden Dome.
Right, not to be confused with the Iron Dome.
No. The Trump administration wants to bring a kind of Iron Dome or multi-tiered air defense system to America. But America is obviously, I think, 1,000 times larger than Israel or something. So
Right.
the airspace you have to defend is absolutely massive.
Right.
Because you got to defend Alaska as well, which
And
essentially
Hawaii,
means you have to defend Canada.
Right. Well, Canada might collaborate with the U.S. in this. Yeah.
Right, exactly. Despite all the rhetoric of them being angry about Trump talking about them being the 51st state and Mark Carney's, elbows up campaign or whatever, fine.
So kind of like by joining this, they are kind of becoming the 51st state. So maybe it's kind of coming
insulting to them. But, well, I mean, the thing is, so what's in the Golden Dome?
It's anti-missile technology, and it's going to all be American made.
Okay.
That's the thing. But I don't know exactly what is in the Iron Dome.
Well, Iron Dome is a short-range air defense system that defends up to a few kilometers or 10 miles or something.
Right.
Then you've got Israel's version of the Patriot, which is the David Sling missile. But the missile actually is what's called plug and play or whatever. You can interchange it in a Patriot battery. It's the same size.
Right.
It was built with U.S. Support and funding.
Right.
And then the Arrow system, which is exo-atmospheric, is also built with U.S. funding.
That always blows my mind that it's exo-atmospheric.
Right, because
it's in space, right? Yeah.
Well, that's because the ballistic missiles, some of them go outside the atmosphere, and then they come back. And you shoot them. You can shoot them down up here.
It's unbelievable. And it's like an intergalactic fight. Yeah.
It's an intergalactic fight. And it's so the Golden Dome concept, I guess, is to because look,
it's like maybe 3G, next
the United
G.
States has things that shoot down ballistic missiles. There's something called THAAD.
Okay, we talked about this last time, like Thaddeus. Yeah.
It sounds like Chad.
Right.
So,
or OHAD. OHAD.
So THAAD, which is a terrible name for a missile defense system because you'd think you'd call it something cool like GoldenEye or whatever. But...
No, it sounds like a literary figure from on Golden Pond or something.
Exactly.
Yeah. On Walden Pond. Yeah.
So the THAAD system, that system is already there. Actually, it's deployed in Israel. Then America doesn't have, anything much higher than that. But the point is to build things that are bigger and better.
Right, prepare.
Yeah, like what they called Star Wars back in the 80s, this missile defense thing. And you'd have defenses in space or something. I don't know, whatever.
But who exactly is Trump defending against? Because he wants to do a nuclear deal with Iran. He's doing a deal with Saudi Arabia. So who is it? Russia, they seem to be kind of quiet. North Korea, China. Who is he worried about?
I would think these days the only country that can concern America is China. I mean, Russia has not been able to defeat the Ukrainians. I mean, to all the love to Russia.
Speaking of outdated technology.
I mean, to be honest, they cannot defeat a country that they themselves claim is like, well, that's a nothing country, it's ours. It's like, yeah, okay, but you couldn't defeat it.
They're very fierce.
Years.
Yeah.
The Ukrainians, the Russians are not even using their air force to fight the Ukrainians. They're using Iranian drones. Look, if you get to the point in the war where you have to rely on the Iranian drone, you could just fold up the cards and go home.
Just give up the ghost.
Yeah, because come on. I mean, I don't doubt the Russians have all sorts of weapon systems that are sitting around from the Cold War that are bad stuff. I mean, it has all sorts of. The Russians are smart. They have great technology. Blah blah blah. But
it's weird how they use so much outdated technology, though, in this fight.
So my sense is that the Russians are not the big threat. I assume it's more the Chinese. And,
so our new Cold War.
And Trump says this will be ready in 3 years, but I guess the analysts think much longer than that. But that would be. You imagine that China by that time will be. China's like growing exponentially or whatever, so it's concerning. Right. So that's what Trump is thinking ahead. Trump doesn't like wasteful endless wars abroad.
Yes.
That's why he stopped that stupid war against the Houthis.
Right.
But I think his idea of investing in American-made technology is pretty smart, and also that helps America's defense industry. And
he's keeping his promise to the voters.
Right, and then America can sell it to people like Australia or India or South Korea.
The Maldives, that's really under threat. Yeah.
Right. Small island countries that need air defense systems.
Speaking of air defense, there was a whole brouhaha between India and Pakistan. I didn't speak to you about this earlier, but they're both nuclear powers, and Pakistan attacked and in this kind of in Kashmir.
That's right. The terrorists, and then because Pakistan seems to support terrorism, the Indians then retaliated.
Yes, they retaliated.
And it was like a 10 days,
It was
fight.
tense. It was tense.
People thought it might go the wrong way, and then they'd use nukes and stuff.
The Indians are seeing it as their own October 7th, but they did surgical strikes, and now they're taking a more proactive position as opposed to, defensive position. But it's wild that they both are on each other's border, being nuclear powers. India is a massive country, massive economy. I mean, there's someone to watch.
I think it shows that the world is changing, and as part of the New World Order, countries like India and Pakistan are willing to go it alone a bit, and they don't have to ask permission from America.
Right.
And, they're willing to go a bit further than they would have, say, 10 or 20 years ago and test these boundaries. So.
But India, I think, sees itself as kind of allied with Israel or in a similar light when it's dealing with something like this. So
Sure, India and Israel are strategic partners, and they both, India is the only Hindu majority country, I think, in the world. Israel's the only Jewish majority. And they have both fought against Muslim majority countries on their borders. So there's some sort of connection.
Apparently, this was the first time with this terrorist incident that they separated out Muslims and Hindus. So it was religion-based.
Right, these terrorists are bad people.
Yeah, they're not great. It reminded me of Entebbe. Anywho, we were saying Trump's Golden Dome. So we'll anticipate a dome.
Yes.
And, forthcoming. And what else? I heard something about 30 delegates going off the path, 30 diplomatic delegates.
There were diplomats in Israel. I guess they went to the West Bank. It wasn't clear what they were doing. They were engineering something, and they apparently had a route they had agreed to with the IDF or something. They went off. They wandered off or something, and then the IDF is shot in the air and stuff. It looks like a diplomatic incident. It's not good for Israel's image. I mean, the fact is that I think, it comes right on the heels of the UK and France and Canada, condemning Israel, saying, stop this Gaza offensive. And then the UK yesterday said they're going to suspend the free trade talks with Israel. And so the UK was very, 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 very nonplussed, I guess, with Israel.
Right. But, you cannot go off the path, especially in Jenin. I mean, they don't go off the route.
Yeah, it's like a national park, right? They have nice signs. You go here, but not there.
So you don't get lost and die, or you don't get killed by a lion.
Sure from the diplomat's perspective, Israel claims that the occupation of the West Bank or whatever everything is kind of hunky-dory. So, I mean, they should be allowed to kind of wander where they like. And, they wanted to see how bad
the wildlife. Yeah, right.
Well, I mean, they wanted to visit I don't know, maybe the Palestinians, see if the civilians are being treated okay over there or whatever. Or maybe they were looking into settler violence or something. I have no idea.
Maybe they were, regardless, they were in the wrong.
Maybe they were buying kanafe and they didn't know.
They just lost track of time. They didn't have good. They didn't have good service up there,
right? And
so their Google Maps wasn't working. So
that's true, and also just because it's confusing in the northern West Bank, because you could be going to one kanafe shop and there could be a different one.
Kanafe is delicious.
Yeah, and then
I could see that causing a diplomatic incident.
Kube, Nablusi, I think, Nablus Kube.
Ooh.
And there's other, unique dishes and cuisine. Maybe we should do a Palestinian cuisine.
I think we should.
Not today, obviously, but
I mean, Kuba is also a Jewish.
We'd have to research
an Israeli delicacy, but yeah.
That's well, that's right.
So luckily, they just fired into the air, though. Nobody was hurt. Everybody's fine. They're back on the path. It wasn't like the hikers that went into Iran. And that was very problematic. It was nothing like
that. I think it would not look good if Israel were to kidnap Western diplomats and hold them hostage like Iran does.
Where, in like the David Citadel? That's more Saudi Arabian style.
The Hanoi Hilton.
Right. Or
I think that would not be good.
I don't think that would be great. So it's good that they didn't do that. Yeah, and then sadly, we're joking around a lot. Hostages are already celebrating their second birthdays in captivity.
There are 58 hostages in Gaza, of which they believe something between 20 and 22, 3 are alive. I think that's the assessment. And then, and they've been there 590 days almost or so, right?
Something like that, yeah.
So that's right. And so that means that some of them, as you said, are having their second birthday in captivity.
What a birthday it is. I mean, but, when I think about what should we talk about on this podcast and you think of the news, I mean, this is what I think about automatically. I mean, what else? Like, the hostages are still there. It's so hard to believe. And everybody's just thinking about it constantly. We just want them to come home already.
Well, the Americans got even Alexander out.
Thank God for that. That was nice to see.
Right.
Yeah.
I think at the end of the day, I mean, history has shown throughout this conflict that basically only the Trump administration can get this done. And it doesn't seem that the gaps between the Israeli delegation, the Hamas delegation sitting in Qatar, which Qatar itself hosts Hamas, so it's a bit interesting as a mediator. But I think it shows, that the Trump administration is the only one that can kind of push on both sides and crack some heads and get things done. And
Halom, to be fair, the unit and the IDF, they got a few people out.
Israel's rescued several hostages.
Yeah.
But it looks like it's pretty difficult. I saw some news today that Mohammed Sinwar was actually with Eden Alexander, whatever, some of these hostages around him.
Or maybe Yahya.
Something like that. And then they released him. Then Mohammed called a meeting underneath the European hospital, which is like a Hamas command center, because they always seem to have command centers in our hospitals. Not really optimal way of fighting a war, but whatever. So
not an optimal way of fighting a disease.
No, neither one. So then they were down there, and then Israel dropped a bunker buster on them, and that was apparently the last thing that went through their mind before they were evaporated.
I wonder what went through their mind, but it wasn't confirmed. It's thought that he was killed, right?
It's like 98.3% confirmed.
But we don't have a video the way we do of Yahya.
They don't know.
Whether he was just getting really annoyed with the remote. That was hilarious.
With Mohammed, it's just primarily pieces, and then I do understand the IDF is advancing slowly but surely towards that hospital. So I guess eventually maybe they'll find chunks or something.
Chunks. That's very enough to bury. But going back to Sinwar, when the OG Sinwar, how do you pronounce it? Yahya? I mean, it's spelled Yahya, like the original G, like the first Yahya. So the video of him when he died, I just found it rather amusing. Because he just looked really irritated. Like he was on a recliner, and let's say like the air conditioner or the TV wasn't working, so he took a long stick and he was poking at it, and he looked just really irritated. And then all of a sudden it was all gone. But I just thought how funny that was. Everyday life.
He was raw dogging that recliner.
Oh, good one.
Have you heard of this?
I have indeed. I was reading Bored Panda, which is a good site for those who are bored. All kinds of what was the word I was going to say? Things that divert your attention.
Diversity, equity, inclusion, yes.
Yes, exactly, DEI. And apparently this new thing is to go on a flight and raw dog it, which means something completely different to me as a Generation X. But according to this, raw dog it means you just throw off all the accoutrements of being a human being and being in the modern era. You don't accept like any sort of movie. You're not listening to any podcast. And also you're not accepting any water. You're not sleeping. You're basically sitting and staring straight ahead for however many hours. So I guess you're going into a meditative state. But to me, that's not new. It's like,
are you saying that basically when Paul Revere went on his midnight ride, that he raw dogged it all the way from Boston to Lexington Green?
I guess he did, but I mean, he was doing actions because he had to get the horse going. But he wasn't being entertained.
When Napoleon wrote back to Josephine about the 1812 campaign to Moscow, he said, I've been raw dogging this for months on the bloody horse, and it's just terrible this Russian winter.
When Moses was up on Har Sinai getting the 10 Commandments, speaking of Shavuot, I bet you he was raw dogging it.
Basically, most of human history was people just sitting there being like, oh, God, this will go on for a long time.
Right. So they're presenting it as this brand new concept. But like, when I was growing up, I make myself sound old, of course, but we looked out of windows on the buses. We didn't have anything to divert our attention unless we brought like an Archie comic or something with us,
You grew up in New York, though.
I grew up in New York.
Yeah, well, weren't people primarily being robbed and murdered when you were a child?
That was Bernie Goetz era subway, and I did not take the subway at that time. It was later on when they cleaned it up.
So many people were murdered in New York in that era that it's very rare to even meet someone that survived.
Yeah, the survivor, the great annihilation of, the sea line. Yeah.
Now, speaking of things that people did not survive.
Right.
Algeria.
Oh.
We have a small segment.
Nobody cares about Algeria.
Nobody cares about it.
So we have to talk about Algeria, as usual. So apparently Algeria is annoying or annoying other and getting annoyed by. It's a mutual thing. It's in the region. It's kind of fighting with everyone. It's not getting along. So it has a problem with France. This is the ongoing problem with France. They feel that they were colonialists. So it's getting really bad. And they're doing tit-for-tat actions. Then they have a problem with UAE because UAE is aligning itself, is normalizing with Israel and also has relations with Morocco.
Algeria views itself as a revolutionary republic or whatever. It's anti-Israel. It causes troubles.
Right. So, and it's very bothered by that. So it just seems that it's not getting along. And some people say it's because they want to distract people from what's going on at home, which is social and economic unrest.
So you're saying that it's not that no one cares about them. It's that, France and the UAE, which are two countries, but 187 countries don't care about them.
But I mean, they may care slightly, but ultimately it's like a thorn in their side because how bad is it if Algeria is irritated with you? How much is that going to hurt your country? I mean, I know Algeria is closer to Morocco, but how much...
It has a border with them. That's right.
And France, though, how much can they really harm France?
Yeah, if you look at a map of Algeria and Morocco is kind of like a kind of man lazing down at the beach, and Algeria is like the beach.
And it's intense,
right.
It feels like it's in your face.
Exactly.
So stay tuned, I guess, for Algeria,
now, Before we wrap up, we always have
This is our fave segment.
Of the segment where we talk about cuisine.
Yes.
And you wanted to talk this week about something that you like to make every Shabbat, which is...
I like to eat it. I don't make it. I'm a horrible person when it comes to cooking, but I am very good at consuming. Schnitzel. What could be more quintessentially Israeli, Jewish? Although I was informed it was created in Austria.
Wiener Schnitzel, or Vienna Schnitzel.
Vienna Schnitzel,
which I think is usually not what we think of as chicken Schnitzel.
Maybe it's like venison.
They're using veal or pigs or something to make it, and then they're beating it down, and it becomes a big flat piece of meat.
Right.
And they do things to it, they bread it like chicken fried steak or something.
Right. So it is different, but I was thinking about it and how here, when you order it outside in a restaurant, it comes with a lemon. And apparently that's traditional. And it tastes nice.
I've had different types of schnitzels in Israel. I've had some where the dough is, I'm not saying it's not fluffy like fish and chips, but there's kind of a cushion of air kind of between the dough and the chicken.
Right.
And it's all warm and wonderful. And you put the little bit of that lemon on there and there's something really nice about it. I've also had some, where the dough really clings to the
it's kind of a clumpy, a clumpy breading.
Right. So I don't know. Well, how do you get, I don't know which one you prefer, but I've seen different recipes, but how do you get the best one?
I guess it depends what you like, but if you want that airy one, I've never seen anyone put schnitzel in a deep fryer, but I guess they have to fry it pretty and have a nice fluffy coating. And if they're using matzo meal or if they're using breadcrumbs.
The process, as I understand it, is you take a chicken, not when it's alive, obviously. You get the pieces.
You get some fillets.
Is it? I think I guess is it a breast or something? I don't know. Anyway, you beat that until it becomes
skinless, boneless, hopefully.
Until it's kind of a pancake shape.
Yes.
And then that you take that, and that is then dipped, I think, into flour.
I always thought it was first in egg, but you're probably right.
I think it goes in flour first. Then it goes into an egg mixture batter thing.
Wash thing. Yeah.
Egg trough. And then it goes into...
That animals eat out of.
Then it goes into some sort of breadcrumbs.
Right.
But I assume as with many of these things, just like KFC and all sorts of fried chicken recipes, it's a question of, first of all, you could probably use different types of flour. You could use rice flour. You could use tempura. I have no idea.
Yeah, some things stick better than others.
Right. And then the breadcrumbs, as you said, you could use matzo meal or you could use... And you could probably put a bunch of spices in there, right?
Right.
I don't know, you could put thyme or rosemary or dried oregano or turmeric or... I don't know, whatever else you'd like to use.
Pumpkin pie spice?
Pumpkin pie spice, cinnamon, a bit of sugar, brown sugar.
You could Middle Eastern it, and there are many directions with which to take it. Yeah. And then I've also heard of beer battered.
So I've used beer batter when I make my fish and chips. With the beer batter, you do a bunch of beer and you pour it over, your flour or whatever, and then there's a secret out there where you put in a dash of vodka, which is, I think, there was a cook named Heston. I forgot. Wait, whatever. That causes.
It's not Chef Gruel.
No, this is
like
different,
last time.
a different chef. But anyway, that puffs it up, and that means you get the fish, and then there's all this puffiness around it.
Just like vodka will make you puffy, and you get a hangover. Right.
Exactly. So
it's a hungover
I don't know
chicken.
if there's a secret with schnitzels to make them like that or whatever, but
I think it's a personal thing. Everybody's mother or themselves has a certain way of making schnitzel. It's all delicious. I mean, unless you have a very rubbery piece of chicken. Yeah.
2 last questions before we wrap up.
I'm probably gonna have more. Because schnitzel, I have a lot to say.
What is the difference between a schnitzel and all these other types of fried chickens like nuggets or cutlets or whatever?
I think they're basically the same thing. I think a cutlet and a schnitzel, it's just semantics. But I think nugget, it's just smaller pieces that are dipped in. So maybe it's crispier because it just was fried more. And then it has like the little dipping sauce. But it's really just a gimmick, I guess. The McNuggets, you know.
So it could be called McSchnitzels.
McSchnitzels, they call it Schnitzelonium.
Right.
Yeah, those are delicious.
Oh, right. That's right. In Hebrew, Schnitzelonium is those little ones, which is just
But they're usually
schnitzels.
just like more gnarly, like longer. They're not like square, like industrial size, you know.
Those don't come from like Parkio or whatever.
I don't know. I'm sure they come from regular chicken. It's not coming
like
from
young chickens. Or
spring chickens. I doubt are in nuggets.
Are there other types of fowl that fly that you can grill up in the schnitzels? Can you make gooses and ducks and
Patties,
pheasants and
pigeon?
Pigeon or
Quail.
swan.
Quail cutlets?
Right, little cutlets.
Little quail schnitzel with the egg.
I think we should go investigate. And on that note, I think we should.
Wait.
But there's
Seth,
one last thing.
Yes.
No.
I want to ask you. Like, you know, you make schnitzel, you make a huge batch, and then you have a lot of leftovers, hopefully. You know, you eat it when it's hot, it's great, but like you're meal prepping a lot of schnitzel. So when you take it out again to either bring it to work or to eat it at home, do you nuke it? Like, do you heat it up again, or do you eat it cold? Because I think it's delicious both ways. But what do you like to do?
I mean, I think eating cold food just makes me think I might as well be rooting through a dumpster or something. I mean, to be honest. So I think it should be
Cold
warm.
pizza? Really? I like cold pizza.
I don't know about that. I mean,
yeah.
I think generally I would heat it up. Yeah, I think I would probably heat it up. You know.
Do you eat it with a pickle? Because it really does bring out the taste.
With the pickles, yeah.
Yeah, and ketchup, mustard, anything, or just on its own.
Ketchup mixed with mayonnaise.
Oh, French dressing. You could do a lot. All these sauces are delicious. So thank you for being open to this discussion, because I have a lot to say.
Next week I will bring in schnitzel. And
My God, we should eat it.
Yeah.
We should eat schnitzelonium on camera, because that's not messy at all.
No.
It sounds like a great idea, like aid to Gaza. Yeah. Okay.
Well,
on that note, thank you, everybody. Have a great day. Have a great week.
Yes.
Bye.